This episode of Sea is the New Land was produced for Port City Futures.
The port has destroyed 4 kilometers of very beautiful beach. Imagine that here we had 34 beach resorts before. It was really a nice touristic place, restaurants, hotels and so on. So the harbor unfortunately destroyed all of this and in a way shaked all the citizens here which lost their reference. And the reference here since thousands of years was the beach and the sea. The harbor has completely eaten, we could say, the beach.
Pra is a citadel located in the western periphery of Genoa, Italy. Its identity has been transfigured by the long and troubled construction of a deep-water port. Formerly a touristic seaside town, Pra is now hosting one of the largest container terminals in the Mediterranean Sea. This is a story of the town's forced maritime metamorphosis, social contestation and civic engagement.
We are talking about the biggest environmental disaster I know of this size and of this length, at least in Italy.
Guido Barbazza is a citizen of Pra and the founder of Primavera Foundation. This association of local citizens is reclaiming the town's quality of life, which has deteriorated with the construction of the port.
Pra was an independent municipality since, we could say, ever until 1926, when Benito Mussolini decided to merge this city together with other 17 cities around Genoa into Genoa City to create a super city which had to become the leading city in the Mediterranean for shipping and maritime industries. This operation became a kind of colonization by Genoa, which has basically utilized all the territory, the lands, the sea, the beach of Pra to put harbors, industries, and as well very, very bad, I would say, civil buildings. So basically tons and tons and tons of concrete. Here the community was mainly composed by agricultural activities, fishermen, shipwrights, since old times building bricks and barks on the beach, and all this kind of seafare activity. So it was a city of sea and basil. The basil grown here in Pra is known as the best in the world. But as I said, there was a very precise, clear situation here, same as many other cities on the coast of Liguria, which was completely destroyed by the port.
The incorporation of Pra into Genoa transformed the town into a suburb. With the intense industrialization that followed World War II, Genoa's western periphery became a hub for the steel industry, with Pra identified as the location for the new port. Pra's beach was converted into land for infrastructure, with the promise that the port would bring many jobs. Its hotels, beach clubs and shipyards were demolished, with fishing sites wiped out. The beach's social function as a public space was finished.
Unfortunately, here we had hundreds and hundreds of jobs which were completely cancelled by the harbor. Yes, the harbor is employing hundreds of workers, and this is good. I mean, we are all in favor of workplaces generated by the harbor. But if we want to tell the truth, and we want, the number of jobs created by the harbor, at least for Pra community, has never reached the number of workplaces and jobs cancelled by the harbor. So the balance sheet, unfortunately, from this point of view, is heavily negative.
As typical Ligurian territory, Pra is built on a narrow strip of land squeezed between sea and mountains. Here, the constant low and high frequencies of logistics resonating from the port create a kind of echo chamber. Cranes and stacks of containers are now in very close view from residential buildings.
The impacts are huge and massive, with particular reference to the environment, because also here we can see a lot of noise that is normal because there are ships, cranes, containers, trains that are typical from this kind of infrastructure, but it's not typical that kind of infrastructure are so close to houses and to citizens.
Alessio Ponte is a citizen of Pra.
So first of all, the first impact is the noise, is the pollution from the ships. Ships have to be supplied with electricity, and the only way is to generate on board, use fuel and making pollution. After that, of course, the other important impact was that the territory was completely transformed. I have some flashback of the protest in which all together with all the citizens in Prague we walked down the street towards the institutions, offices and sites to protest, to witness our unhappiness in see the port becoming more and more larger with no care for us. Fight is the proper word to define that kind of period. There were not the will by the institution to hear about the citizens' complaint. The only important thing was to build up the port. And without caring about fishermen's people, the quality of life of them, of us. And was very sad and was very bad living in that time. Maybe it was the natural evolution of a feeling that everyone in Prague felt in terms of feeling abandoned from the institution and our lives is just not important, let me say. And then probably something has happened in our mind, and after a lot of years in which we protest, and we change our mind and move from the protest to the proposal, to the dialogue, trying to find the correct people to establish a dialogue and to put the focus on the problems, looking for a solution. It was not a quick process. Since Fondazione Primavera appeared on the scenario, something started to move quickly. Some results are now coming after 7 years of activities, so it's quite a short time considering the institution and all the actors involved. Port authority, local administration, national administration, terminal conductor that is from Singapore, so it's very far away from our problems, let me say.
Primavera Foundation was launched in 2014, when the inhabitants of Prague were protesting in the streets, in a climate of spatial and political alienation. The foundation wanted to channel the contestation into a means for gaining territorial agency.
Because one of the reasons why Fondazione Primavera was created, was because I really saw the people sad, really sad, without hope. Let's say with all this massive construction and demolition works around. And this has been really good because we have discovered a huge, big heritage, big energy, a lot of people really willing and wishing to do something, because the situation was unacceptable and was going up since 1970, so 40-50 years of works and activities, first to construct, to make the harbor, and then to operate. The citizens were and are asking to get concrete actions to minimize the impact of the harbor of Prague on the city, on the quality of life and on the territory, and of course on the environment. So not any more talks, as unfortunately it happened for too long times in the past, but concrete joint action in cooperation. Well, one of the steps was to create a local newspaper, digital and paper, a magazine, to inform the people. Because believe or not, what happened here in the past decades was not known by the people in details. So the people were waking up in the morning and they saw here it's 100 of trucks and unloading muds and other things, sometimes even something toxic. And they didn't even know what was going on. So we have chosen, first of all, as a tool, information, sharing of information with the citizen, because sometimes the citizen can be aggressive because they don't know. The anger of the people in the past was so high, so the people were so angry against people who has, let's say, designed and done this disaster, environmental disaster, that I believe dialogue was simply impossible because the people here would like to see this harbor disappearing. So it was quite delicate, not easy to convince these people that, like or not, the harbor is here. The harbor is here, bloody hell. And so as it is here, we have to talk with the harbor, we have to have a dialogue to the harbor to get the most possible benefits and advantage from this situation. So stopping fighting the harbor as such, wishing and willing to have this harbor flourishing, but at the same time deliver money, deliver resources, deliver actions to do works and activities to reduce the environmental impact.
The construction began in 1974, and it took more than 20 years. I remember when it became operative, and I was just a little child.
David Siviero is a 24-year-old resident.
The port of Genoa produces not only the platform of Prague, of course, produces about 3 or 4 billion revenues per year. For concessions to terminalists, taxes, duties, customs, and everything. But just a fragment of these profits remains on the territory. And I think that this has to change in the future, because I don't think it's allowable in 2021 that the territories on which these infrastructures insist are not repaid from their negative externalities.
The port's lengthy construction, with its connected railway and highway, triggered urban deterioration in its surroundings. Primavera Foundation has been leading interventions for improving such spaces, negotiating with port and city institutions. A buffer zone has been built between the port and the residential areas. New public space with benches, cycle lanes and green dunes have been created in an attempt to reduce the port's impact.
I saw new pavements, promenades, footpaths, pedestrian areas, trees were planted, and I really wanted to know who orchestrated this upgrade. I discovered that was Fondazione Primavera.
Francesca Franchelli has owned a pharmacy in the centre of Prague since 2016.
I also wanted to do something for this area. So we began to cooperate together, and last year we proposed a scholarship for students to realize a recovery and renovation project for this area of Prague, the zone where my pharmacy is. So students presented 5 projects, These were put online and people voted them. And then we had the awards ceremony, and on the website you can see the video. And it was really wonderful and enjoying for the people. I'm very proud to be a part of such a noble project.
Ideas from local students have been included in a larger proposal aimed at improving urban spaces in the community. The project has been approved and it is about to receive 15 million euros from the central government.
Fondazione Primavera is an association that has changed the way to approach the problem of Pra.
Nico Caloni is a former ship commander and director of a marine service company. He is now retired and is the president of Primavera.
Saying this in two simple words, the motto Fondazione is from the protest to the proposal. And this is what we have done since the beginning of our association. Today, Fondazione Primavera is practically the voice of Pra. The future of Pra started trying to forget the beach. The beach doesn't exist anymore, and today we have the port. And we have to live with it. Also, the port needs to ask itself what can do for Pra, because the activity of the port is creating noise, is creating atmospherical air pollution, it's creating problems for the life of the inhabitants. There are medical, I believe medical is the correct word, medical statistics that say that the Pra has it's one of the highest oncological disease in the city of Genoa. The people of Pra start to understand that the port is an opportunity for Pra, and the people of the ports, port authority and the terminalists, they need to understand that they have to give something to the village to reduce the effect of the port's activity in terms of evergreen barrier, green spaces, area dedicated to the young people for making sports, for walking, and to do something to improve the quality of the life of Pra. Personally, my opinion is that there are no problems, in the sense that any problem can be solved if you are able to sit at a table and have a fair and honest discussion with the parts involved. This is what is happening today, because in the past the relations between the village, between Pra and the port was conflictual. There is a fact about what I am sure, that we can solve any problem that is existing or can arise in the future by the use of only one element, which in my personal opinion is fundamental: respect. The port must respect the village, and the village must respect the port, because both have their needs. The port must go ahead, the village must have a good level of life.